Volume 1, Book 3, number 125. Narrated by Abu Musa. A man came to the Prophet and asked, "O Allah's Apostle, what kind of fighting is in Allah's cause?" I ask this. For some of us fight because of being enraged and angry, and some for the sake of his pride and haughtiness. The Prophet raised his head, as the questioner was standing, and said, "He who fights so that Allah's word, Islam, should be superior, then he fights in Allah's cause." Volume 1, Book 3, number 126. Narrated by Abdullah bin Ammar. I saw the Prophet near the Jamra, and the people were asking him questions about religious problems. A man asked, "O Allah's Apostle, I have slaughtered the Hadi animal before doing the Rami." The Prophet replied, "Do the Rami now, and there is no harm." Another person asked, "O Allah's Apostle, I got my head shaved before slaughtering the animal." The Prophet replied, "Do the slaughtering now, and there is no harm." So on that day, when the Prophet was asked about anything as regards the ceremonies of Hajj performed before or after its due time, his reply was, "Do it now, and there is no harm." Volume 1, Book 3, number 127. Narrated by Abdullah. While I was going with the Prophet through the ruins of Medina, and he was reclining on a date palm leaf stalk, some Jews passed by. Some of them said to the others, "Ask him, the Prophet, about the Spirit." Some of them said that they should not ask him that question, as he might give a reply which would displease them. But some of them insisted on asking, and so one of them stood up and asked, "O Aba el-Qasim, what is the Spirit?" The Prophet remained quiet. I thought he was being inspired divinely. So I stayed till that state of the Prophet, while being inspired, was over. The Prophet then said, "And they ask you, O Muhammad, concerning the Spirit, say, the Spirit, its knowledge is with my Lord. And of knowledge you, mankind, have been given only a little." 17.85. Volume 1, Book 3, number 128. Narrated by Aswad. Ibn Azad Zubair said to me, "Aisha used to tell you secretly a number of things. What did she tell you about the Kaaba?" I replied, "She told me that once the Prophet said, 'O Aisha, had not your people been still close to the pre-Islamic period of ignorance, infidelity, I would have dismantled the Kaaba and would have made 2 doors in it, one for entrance and the other for exit.'" Later on Ibn Azad Zubair did the same. Volume 1, Book 3, number 129. Narrated by Abu at-Tufail. The above-mentioned statement of Ali. Volume 1, Book 3, number 130. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. Once Mu'ah was along with Allah's Apostle as a companion rider. Allah's Apostle said, "O Mu'ah bin Jabal." Mu'ah replied, "Labbaik and Sadiq." "O Allah's Apostle." Again the Prophet said, "O Mu'ah." Mu'ah said thrice, "Labbaik and Sadiq, O Allah's Apostle." Allah's Apostle said, "There is none who testifies sincerely that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and Muhammad is his apostle, except that Allah will save him from the hell fire." Mu'ah said, "O Allah's Apostle, should I not inform the people about it so that they may have glad tidings?" He replied, "When the people hear about it, they will solely depend on it." Then Mu'ah narrated the above-mentioned hadith just before his death, being afraid of committing sin by not telling the knowledge. Volume 1, Book 3, number 131. Narrated by Anas. I was informed that the Prophet had said to Mu'ah, "Whosoever will meet Allah without associating anything in worship with him will go to paradise." Mu'ah asked the Prophet, "Should I not inform the people of this good news?" The Prophet replied, "No, I am afraid, lest they should depend upon it, absolutely." Volume 1, Book 3, number 132. Narrated by Salama. Sulaim came to Allah's apostle and said, "Verily, Allah is not shy of telling you the truth. Is it necessary for a woman to take a bath after she has a wet dream, nocturnal sexual discharge?" The Prophet replied, "Yes, if she notices a discharge." Salama then covered her face and asked, "O Allah's apostle, does a woman get a discharge?" He replied, "Yes, let your right hand be in dust," an Arabic expression you say to a person when you contradict his statement, meaning, you will not achieve goodness, and that is why the son resembles his mother. Volume 1, Book 3, number 133. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Once Allah's apostle said, "Amongst the trees there is a tree, the leaves of which do not fall and is like a Muslim. Tell me the name of that tree." Everybody started thinking about the trees of the desert areas, and I thought of the date palm tree but felt shy to answer. The others asked, "O Allah's apostle, inform us of it." He replied, "It is the date palm tree." I told my father what had come to my mind, and on that he said, "Had you said it I would have preferred it to such and such a thing that I might possess." Volume 1, Book 3, number 134. Narrated by Ali. I used to get the emotional urethral discharge frequently, so I requested Al-Miqdad to ask the Prophet about it. Al-Miqdad asked him and he replied, "One has to perform ablution after it." See Hadith number 269. Volume 1, Book 3, number 135. Narrated by Nafi. Abdullah bin Umar said, "A man got up in the mosque and said, 'O Allah's apostle, at which place you order us that we should assume the ihram?' Allah's apostle replied, 'The residents of Medina should assure the ihram from Dil Hulayfa, the people of Syria from Al-Ju, Hfa, and the people of Najd from Khan.'" Ibn Umar further said, "The people consider that Allah's apostle had also said, 'The residents of Yemen should assume ihram from Yalamlam.'" Ibn Umar used to say, "I do not remember whether Allah's apostle had said the last statement or not." Volume 1, Book 3, number 136. Narrated by Ibn Umar. A man asked the Prophet, "What kinds of clothes should a muhrim, a Muslim intending to perform Umrah or Hajj, wear?" He replied, "He should not wear a shirt, a turban, trousers, a head cloak or garment scented with saffron or wars kinds of perfumes. And if he has slippers, then he can use cuffs, leather socks. But the socks should be cut short so as to make the ankles bare." See Hadith number 615, Volume 2.